Guys, I think we found a lab. Glycerol, dimethyl sulfoxide, mannitol heparin, liquid nitrogen.
This is no ordinary drug lab. This is all medical equipment.
What the heck is that? Oh my God. It's Robillard Niven.
The dead reggae singer?
Yeah. I'll be damned. He looks a little stoned.
He is. Stone cold frozen. What the hell's going on here? Freeze! Miami Vice!
In the city with neon glows, where the palm trees sway and the rhythm flows, there's a podcast that's breaking all the codes. It's the Vice of Miami. Here's the story it unfolds.
Welcome to the Voice of Miami podcast. Join your host, Tim and Mark, as we dive deep into the iconic 80s TV show Miami Vice. As we review each episode, exploring the stylish world of Detective Sonny Crockett, Enrico Tubbs, and the entire Vice team. We'll analyze the gripping storylines, guest stars, and electrifying music that made Miami Vice a cultural phenomenon, as well as talk about some trivia, fun facts, and goofs of each episode. Whether you're a longtime fan or discovering the show for the first time, our podcast offers a fresh and engaging look at this groundbreaking series. So tune in and relive the magic of Miami Vice.
Welcome back, Vice fans, to the Vice of Miami podcast for show number 77. Mark and I are always glad you are joining us. We hope you enjoyed our last show covering Death and the Lady. So, as always, sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and enjoy the Vice of Miami podcast covering Season 4, Episode 4, The Big Thaw.
Just so everybody knows, I'm having a little technical difficulty. It says my internet is unstable. Okay, that's the story of my life. But Tim, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, if you could hear me.
Doing great. Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. Doing fine. We're in a bit of a rain spell here in the month of June. We only got maybe 1.25 inches rain total. Now, just in the last week, we've had almost, a little bit more than 5.25 inches. So every day this week it's predicted. Currently, as I'm sitting here, it's nice and sunny, probably about 80, 81 degrees here in Western North Carolina. How are you doing, Mark?
Monday night, we had in the Chicago area, I just checked, a total of 27 tornadoes in the Chicago area. Now, most of them weren't that big. They were rated EF0, EF1, a couple of EF2s, depending where you're at. But most of them were just very, very high winds. But I know one of the assessors for the National Weather Service, and just figure any straight wind, any big wind. But as they're looking with drones, you could see the sinuous twisting on the ground or of the damage pattern. And I noticed that too, going into one of the Crestwood, one of the areas where you could see trees are one way and trees are down another way. So it wasn't catastrophic like more tornado like several years ago. I think that was almost EF5. Greenfield, Iowa, I think recently had like an EF4. It wasn't nothing big like that, but the storm itself came from Minnesota and Iowa, through the afternoon, and it blew through. And actually, I spent time in the basement, which I never do during storms. I'll make sure my family's down there taken care of, and I'll come back up and I'll go right outside and videotape this stuff. That's just what I do. But this time, I stayed down there for about 1.5 minutes or so. When it's basically, I went down there when the whole house, when the wind was blowing, it was humming. Any crevice the wind could find to go in, like through the eaves and like windows and stuff, it was humming. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go downstairs. So, but we survived. No damage here. Neighbors had some big limbs down on their trees and stuff, but we survived. And I survived to watch this episode, Tim. So why don't we get into it, as weird as it is?
Survived is a good word, Mark. All right, let's go. This episode was written by Joseph DeBlase, directed by Richard Compton. And the original air date was October 23rd, 1987. And it was the 72nd episode overall in the series.
And the plot summary for this episode: two groups battle over possession of a dead reggae singer's frozen body, with Izzy, caught in the middle, if you could imagine that.
Imagine that.
Okay, and this is where we typically do the guest stars and co-stars. We'll cover them briefly, but as we've previously done, we're going to forego the extensive bios and cover something in particular about the show. This focus is going to be the Bugbuster van. All of this is going to be according to the Miami Vice wiki online. And starting out, it says that Switek and Zito used several Bugbuster vans over the course of the show, but all of them were Dodge-based van chassis. Initially, the van was white and featured a large but rather crude spider mounted on the roof. I remember that was kind of comical. It also introduced the fictitious Bugbusters company, the name of which was painted on the side in simple blue lettering, designed to give the surveillance van the appearance of being owned by a pest control business, thereby helping it, quote unquote, hide in plain sight while on operations. The original van was soon replaced with a much more elaborately modified one, adorned with an elaborate, comical, giant flying ant sculpture on its roof, complete with the motorized flapping wings. And the Bugbusters lettering on the side was also repainted in much larger purple text.
And for season 2, the van was updated again, now adopting a green color with a far more elaborate livery, consisting of a horde of giant black termites swarming over its bodywork. The flying ant roof sculpture was also repainted, this time in a more cartoonish green and black, matching the colors on the rest of the van. These early bug vans, with their elaborate and humorous roof ornaments, were in line with the more light-hearted nature of Switek and Zito and the show in general in early episodes.
For the start of season 3, the van's appearance was dramatically scaled back with the removal of the roof ornament and a custom paint scheme and logos. The new Plain Jane van was far more in line with the dark tone the show had adopted, and it also fit better with the more serious portrayals of Switek and Zito from this point on. After Zito's death in Down for the Count Part 1, Switek took to reading magic books when he was on operations in the bug van, as his partner was never replaced on the show. The van usually stayed at a distance from the main action owing to its nature as a surveillance vehicle. However, it had occasionally become more actively involved, most notably when it was stolen by Izzy in Bought and Paid For. Good episode. Switek and Zito soon recovered it and used the threat of prosecution for its theft as just another means of coaxing valuable info out of Izzy.
The first bug van used in the show is only seen in the episode Golden Triangle Part 2. Although never seen particularly clearly, this was a Dodge Ram van with double side doors with inset windows. All of the later bug vans would feature a single sliding door in the rear cargo space with no side windows. The bug van used for the remainder of the first season was a 1981 Dodge Ram van and was fitted with a far more elaborate flying ant roof ornament. For the second season, the van was replaced again, although the roof ornament was retained. The van itself was changed to a 1979 Dodge Tradesman with a new and far more elaborate paint scheme and livery. This van was retained for the remainder of the series, although as previously stated, the flying ant and custom paint scheme were removed at the start of season 3, leaving the van just a plain green and much more inconspicuous object in the world of surveillance.
And we'll quickly run down the guest stars. Bill Raymond as David Frobel, Martin Ferrero as none other than Izzy, Sarah Scott as Esther Nevin, and Alfred Molina as Esther's attorney.
The co-stars for this episode are Alston Blair as James Davis, Christopher Brown as Simmers, Damian Chuck as Nakahara, Herb Goldstein as Dr. Alfred S. Poe, Courtney Griffiths as Sled, Raycel Long as Robliard Nevin, and Kimiyo Sato as Toyama.
All right, let's take a peek at what we got. Miami Vice and News. Tim, what do you got for?
I found out that actress Sarah Scott, who played Esther Nevin, will be starring in the off-Broadway play Six Characters at the Claire Toe Theater from July 13th to August 25th of this year.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now
we're beginning the discussion part of episode, and we begin with Crockett, Tubbs, and Wafflehead Stan, as Crockett called him, they arrived to search what they thought was a drug lab and an abandoned nursing home called the Fountain of Youth Nursing Home. Their search turns up a locked room full of medical equipment and liquid nitrogen. Further investigation finds a cryogenic chamber containing the frozen remains of a reggae star named Robliard Nevin. The trio wonder what the hell is going on. Then we switch to OCB, where Nevin's body is brought back there along with the caretaker of the remains named David Frobel. Crockett and Tubbs want to open it, but Dave objects because of the potential decomposition. Marty enters and tells them that a Judge Franklin issued an order to keep the silver bullet coffin sealed until he can sort things out. Frobel tells them on full charge the chamber will hold frozen for 90 days. Frobel tells him that the intention is to bring Nevin back to life with the help of cryobiologist Dr. Alfred Poe. Marty clears the room and tells Crockett and Tubbs to keep this an undercover op with no leaks to the press. Marty wants the chamber gone ASAP, and I believe he's telling Switek, get rid of it.
Yes, he was tasking Switek a few times, as I'll go in my review. But moving on, Crockett and Tubbs, they return to this quote-unquote lab where David Frobel shows them a dog and a cat that were frozen and reanimated. Izzy shows up, and Crockett asks, why is he? What the hell are you doing here? Izzy here is a investor in this project. Turns out the good old Iz was delivering pizza one day and stayed on to make sure Dr. Poe ate while doing his research, because I guess he was just getting malnourished or something like that. Nevin hired Poe and Frobel to freeze him in the event of his death. Nevin here died from blowfish stew food poisoning while in Japan 18 months ago. Frobel states that Dr. Poe cracked the code on the antidote for this poisoning. So the intent here, reanimate Nevin, give him the antidote. Everyone's going to be happy, man. Tubbs here asks when the big thaw is going to happen and was told today. Marty informed Frobel that he's got to prove who owns the chamber and the body before the thaw can happen. Crockett here tells Frobel it's a big con. Tubbs is worried they're going to work with live people next. Crockett, Tubbs, and Dave here return to OCB. And Wise Vice here again.
Dr. Poe is a man of pure genius. Unfortunately, he has forgotten how to feed himself.
Where did you trip onto this guy?
He was delivering pizza. Dr. Poe liked him, so he stayed.
Well, you haven't explained how you got Robillard Nevin's body.
We were hired?
You and Poe.
Yes, by Nevin. See, we were on call for the tour. See, Nevin always thought that grim ferryman was right behind him.
So you actually think that you can pull Nevin's body out of the deep freeze like a piece of chicken and defrost it?
Well, that's a little more complicated than that, but that's close. You see, the clinical definition of death is not the absence of heartbeat. People are brought back from that state every day, and the heart restarted. Nor is it the absence of alpha wave main activity. That can be resumed also.
We return back to OCB, where Crockett, Tubbs, and Frobel are watching a video that his wife had delivered to OCB as a testament to their love for each other. Esther Nevin shows up with an attorney and starts in her sobbing and her grieving. And then she says, and her lawyer then tells Marty that they are holding up Nevin's burial and causing Esther unnecessary distress. Crockett wants to know how they found out Nevin's location, as this was an undercover operation. The lawyer tells him they got an enjoyment from the medical examiner to get the location of OCB, or really of Nevin's body. Esther and the lawyer have been searching for him for the last 18 months, and Esther tells them he used to go in the wind frequently, so it was really nothing new. Frobel tells them that they were divorced, but Esther said the romance was rekindled. The divorce papers were never filed, but Esther wants to bury him, and Dave retorts and says it's about money, $30 million to be exact. Esther argues she is entitled to his estate, but Dave says not if he is reanimated. Esther screams at the lawyer to get her money, and a question that I have here was, all right, so he's in the wind a lot, but how did you know you were looking for a dead body? How did they know that? Just something to think about. Something to ponder, never answered.
So now we're back at the quote-unquote Fountain of Youth nursing home. Dave, Crockett, and Tubbs return to the lab here, and Dave informs them that once reanimated, Nevin is going to tell Esther to hit the road, which may be why that's why she wants him dead. The trio arrive to find police presence at the lab. Izzy called them there, and it turns out that Dr. Poe is dead. Dave wants to put him on ice, but it's too late, and he's hitting a run. He's got Izzy helping him, use the old hotel ice chest thing, scooping ice out and dumping ice on him. To no avail. Dave here accuses Esther of killing Poe to stop the thaw. Homicide has the Poe case, and everyone here is going to have to wait for a judge to sort out who gets the body. Izzy tries to convince Dave that he can reanimate Nevin because he has Poe's instruction book. Dave buys into this. Crockett legitimately questions this, but Dave says he's got the playbook.
There's nothing you could have done.
I should have been here. I could have started the freezing process sooner. I let him down. It's kind of ironic, World's greatest cryobiologist misses out on his own immortality.
Look, I believe that Poe knows that you tried, wherever he is.
I want that woman tried for the murder of Dr. Poe.
Yeah, bring her to justice.
You heard her today. She's vicious, spewing threats. She thinks that if she gets Poe out of the way, that she can get Nevin in the ground because nobody else knows how to run the big thaw.
Well, now let's not jump to conclusions here.
It's not us. Homicide's got the case.
It's our job to figure out who owns the body. A judge will issue an order. If it comes up that the Poe Institute gets it, then Robillard and Nevin dead, alive, frozen, or freeze-dried, or otherwise, he's all yours.
So now we're back at OCB here. Stan is complaining big time about the AC being out, and he's really going on a rant here. It feels like a gym, which he hates.
Are you guys gonna have this done by the next ice age? We're doing our best.
What happened to the other guy?
He pulled off on another job this morning. I can't tell heads or tails what's been done here before. I'll tell you what's been done. You guys have managed to turn this place into a giant steam room. It's like being held captive in a health club. I hate steam rooms. I hate health clubs. I hate health. I don't even like you.
Stan!
This whole air conditioning thing thrown in here was it was something different, but typical falls upon Stan on this one. Trudy tells him she treats her body like a temple and he treats his body like an amusement park, right? Anyway, the team here briefs Marty. Gina reports that when Nevin disappears, so does his band. However, they located one band member, James Davis, who lives in Coconut Grove. Nice area of Miami, by the way. Marty tells Gene and Trudy pay him a visit, and he wants the case solved or kick it back to homicide. Or kick it to homicide, which it should have been there in the first place. And like I said before, this is the second time Castillo tells Stan to get rid of the body as he's walking out. So Gene and Trudy pay a visit to Davis at his home. Davis is the caretaker for Nevin's kids in his absence. And it seems like a little, I don't want to say a party, but everyone's just chilling out, doing relaxing, whatever they do. He tells Gene and Trudy that Esther is an evil woman. Davis confirms that Nevin makes like a ghost frequently, just disappears. And the last time he saw Nevin was in Japan when Nevin here was speaking with Poe. And the last he saw, Nevin took off on a plane with Poe and Frobel.
So now we move to an outdoor restaurant, if you want to. Now we're at an outdoor restaurant. Looked more like fast foodish, but probably Cubano type of food. And Crockett and Tubbs are there discussing the merits of cryogenics. Freeze it until you find a cure. Tubbs tells Crockett it does not matter if it works because you're dead anyway. Gene and Trudy then show up and brief Crockett and Tubbs about their conversation with James Davis. Davis told them that Nevin put out a $2 million bond to have Poe's cryogenics on standby with Dave Frobel as the caretaker. Tubbs confirmed the $30 million estate, and he said that the Jamaicans will not release the funds without the body or a death certificate. Esther has suddenly become bereaved. Trudy tells them she tried the same thing in 1981. Crockett gets a call from Stan who tells him Esther got temporary restraining order to keep Frobel from touching the capsule. Esther got a federal court order to get possession of the body under the guise that Nevin's civil rights were violated because he wanted to be buried. Crockett just says she conned the judge. Stan tells them Esther and a lawyer at OCB right now. Mark, you got any comment to that?
Well, as soon as I saw these wires hanging down, I knew exactly what was going to happen to this good old Stan.
Zip zap.
Check secured a temporary restraining order against Frobel going near the capsule. And the best part, federal court order giving Esther possession of Nevin's body.
Esther got a federal court order for Nevin's body? On what grounds?
The desecration of Nevin's burial place is a retroactive violation of his civil rights.
Violated his civil rights because he wasn't buried?
Yeah, I know, they conned the judge.
Hold on. They conned the judge.
That can be reversed.
Can you imagine if they get their hands on that capsule within 5 minutes or more? By then, Nevin's body is fly food. Starts not smelling so good.
Stan.
Well, guys, they're right here, right now, and they want Robillard.
Stall him until we get there, all right?
Okay.
It's kind of like being on top of a radio tower. So anyway, a little bit later, at OCB, Crockett does not want to turn over Nevin's body, as Esther and her lawyer are now suspects in Poe's death. Esther retorts that she was never near Poe. Tubbs tells her they have probable cause. Crockett tells her the capsule stays put until he can confirm the court order. The lawyer threatens to sue. Marty enters and says the papers are in order and tells Crockett and Tubbs to turn over the body. Once again, he tells Stan this, go get the body. Stan comes back really quick, can't find the capsule. Esther accuses them of plotting against her. Stan says, maybe he melted. Still at OCB, Nevin's band members show up with his kids, and it's utter chaos in a very loud office. You've got the band people, you've got the investigation going on, you've got the renovation people making noise. Crockett's on the phone here trying to track down Frobel. Marty wants the room cleared to include the band members and the HVAC guys. Everyone get the frick out of here. Marty informs the team as he's walking out of OCB with the phone that he hands to Crockett, obviously after he ripped it out of the wall, that they're being sued for $80 million for civil rights violations. I mean, he walked from his office, hands the phone, says his quote, and literally walks out the room. It was just lockstep. It was totally funny, absolutely funny. Stan questions how he can have civil rights when he is a popsicle.
Outstanding quote by Stan. So now we have Izzy is on the road towing the chamber with a stretched limo while talking to Frobel on the phone, who's at the lab. Frobel tells Izzy they are shifting gears as the Japanese are coming in an hour. Esther shows up at the lab and demands Nevin's body and draws down on Frobel. Izzy is still listening in on this exchange. Frobel won't tell Esther where the body's location is. He tells Esther that he is the only one with the instructions to reanimate. Mistake. She kills Frobel, picks up the phone, and asks who's on the other end of the line.
And this was one of the very rare times Izzy does the right thing. He doesn't say a word. He hangs up the phone. Now, typically, wouldn't he, this is you got me totally wrong here. Do you know what I'm saying? So now back at OCB, the team and Esther's lawyer are watching the video again. He states that it's a living testimony of the affection between Nevin and Esther. This evidence convinced the judge that Nevin's rights were violated, so Esther can bury him. Crockett turns off the video, and now the news is on. So they're playing a story here about the reanimation, and the lawyer continues that Frobel has to prove he has the rights to the body. Tubbs gets a call and informs everyone that Frobel is dead. Now the lawyer insists that the body definitely goes to Esther. Lock, stock, and barrel, huh? While on the road, Tubbs hears talking to a newsroom reporter who tells them that talking to Frobel is now a moot point. Crockett still wants to know who's got the body, obviously. Meanwhile, Izzy is at an unknown location here, hooking up the chamber back up to liquid nitrogen. And apparently, Izzy is now going to use the instructions to reanimate Nevin. He's going to take Frobel's place on the live interview. It's obvious Izzy here is being a consummate opportunist. Nevin's gone, or Frobel's gone, right? Izzy's got money in this. So, hey, he's still going to make sure this works.
So now back at the newsroom, Crockett and Tubbs are talking to the female reporter that Tubbs initially talked to as a male reporter is about to go live with an entrepreneur. The female reporter tells Crockett and Tubbs the location of this broadcast is within 20, 30 miles, so really large radius. During the interview, Izzy tells the reporter he is a cryobiologist to the stars and informs the interviewer that Frobel just got cold feet. That's why he's not on the interview. Meanwhile, Tubbs gets a call from Stan, who is on the scene at the lab. Stan tells him that witnesses saw a woman fitting Esther's description. Esther did in Frobel, and now Izzy stands in between her and the money. While Izzy's being interviewed, the Japanese show up with a delivery guy who's bringing in sushi, and then it makes the interview awkward because the Japanese are eating this sushi while using the chamber as a table. That was just so now there's a quick flip in the scene to Esther's lawyer's office where she and the lawyer are watching the interview. He tells Esther he had this handled through legal channels, but she didn't listen to him. Esther wants Izzy, and the lawyer knows that she killed Frobel. Esther then pulls out a gun, shoots the TV, and tells her lawyer he ain't going anywhere. He's seen this through.
So now we're at some unknown outdoor location. Izzy is setting up for some big show, lights, camera, action. It's along like a river or something like that. And the Japanese are there to learn about reanimation. They say they work for New Global Industries. Izzy made the deal with them to finance his new cryogenics business. Izzy here, he's got this booklet in the hand on how to reanimate him. He's having trouble reading instructions. I think he actually says, "What is this? What does this say?" And the Japanese, this guy's like, "What?" The Japanese guys tell Izzy that the band members want to be present for the resurrection. Izzy's annoyed that they're interfering with his production schedule. He takes a dog to James Davis's home as well. Izzy arrives at the Davis home to find Esther on the scene, and Izzy is in trouble. Ooh. Whoops. So now we're at OCB here. The team's working to find the location of Izzy's resurrection scene, and they end up narrowing it down to 3 or 4 square miles. Marty tells them that Esther's got a court order for the body. The estate here, the estate money is in Jamaica, and it's hers if the body's in the ground.
Why, Tech wants to talk to you. Esther Nevin's got the court order to take possession of the body. The money's in Jamaica. It's hers if she puts the body in the ground. Her attorney's on her way to get a death certificate. I'm sure she's on her way to Brazil, where we can't touch her, and wait for the $30 million.
With Poe and Frobel, we might be talking 3 deaths here.
Robillard Nevins?
Yeah, if he could be revived.
With Izzy behind the wheel, he ain't gonna get thawed, pal. More likely get Dixie fried.
Dixie fried. So anyway, the team splits up the list of several location possibilities, and then they hit the road. So now back at the Davis home, Esther threatens to drag Izzy down the street unless he gives up the chamber's location. So Izzy being Izzy, he gives it up easily. Meanwhile, Trudy tells Crockett that Esther's kidnapped Izzy and the band members. Esther knows the location ahead of OCB, so Crockett and Tubbs are working through a second batch of locations with no luck. And then they finally work through the final batch of locations, which brings them to the resurrection scene, which is along the river here.
So we finally come to the end of this debacle that OCB has been tossed in the middle of. And Izzy and Esther arrive back at the production location. She demands the chamber get loaded into the limo. Somehow Crockett and Tubbs arrive by speedboat, and this distracts Esther. And then there's this comical struggle between Izzy, Esther, the band members, and the Japanese that just ensues here. Crockett and Tubbs watch an amusement before they intervene. And as this happening, the capsule's dumped into the water, and it does sink. And then Crockett fires a shot in the air. And once again, this is the second time this season that he's done that. What goes up must come down. But anyway, he arrests Esther and tells the Japanese to go back home. Later on, the chamber is seen floating out in the ocean, even though it's sunk, to the moonlight. Nevin is in the wind again. End episode.
Well, we get lucky, they'll kill each other.
She is suspect.
True. Okay. Just because it's my civic duty. All right, that's it. Knock it off.
Crockett, Tubbs, glad to see you.
You. Go stand over there and shut up. You. You're under arrest. You. Go back to Tokyo.
Teriyaki.
I said shut up!
Oh my God. Robelot, where have you gone?
Yeah. Well, if you boys hurry, you might be able to beat it in Japan.
Teriyaki.
Hurry up, you
Okay.
might beat it to Japan.
All right, the ratings for this episode. IMDb gives this a 6.0. Tim, I think this is the lowest so far in the series. I'll have to check
I
that
think
out.
so.
Tim, your
Check
thoughts
out
on this one.
See what they gave Taylor to go. We'll have to check that out.
gonna
Mark,
check it
I'm
right
just
now
going to
while you're
keep.
doing your review.
Okay. Mark, I'm going to keep my review short. This episode is another one of those, why did they write this? A la Tale of the Goat, as you told me in a text when we were watching this episode. In no way was this an OCB case, even though they stumbled onto the capsule while making a raid on a suspected drug lab. Initially, this was a death investigation that turned into a homicide, the department that should have handled the whole thing. However, Izzy and Stan were superb as a comedic relief that was sprinkled throughout the episode. Otherwise, I have no other words for this episode.
Much like us recording this episode today, absolute chaos in this in this story. Tim, I checked. Tale of the Goat, a 6.6, slightly higher. I think because he came back, Legbug came back to life. Maybe that's why I got a 6.6. And this guy just drifted off the coast of Miami, out of Biscayne Bay, right?
Yep.
Tim, IMDb is being very gracious in the rating here. Another frozen stiff for the Vice team to deal with, aka Legba. I guess OCB is in the frozen paleta crew for Miami, if you know what that is. This was as comedic an episode as Miami Vice has laid out yet. The sauna that Switek is pissed about, Castillo telling Switek twice to get rid of the body, and why a body is being stored at OCB rather than the morgue is beyond me, even if he's not actually technically dead. And Izzy being Izzy, Castillo obviously ripping the phone out of his wall in office after hearing they're going to be sued. The Japanese guys eating sushi on the corpse. A dog now after the cat in the last episode. For a comedy, I'm going to give this a 9, maybe a 9.9. But for Vice and Vice dealings, 6 is more than enough. All we needed to hear was Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's to show up and start dancing to some of the reggae music. So. All right, let's check out the music for this episode. Starting up, we've got What Is Life? That's by Black Uru during the video of Nevin and the end sequence with Nevin's body ending up in the ocean. Wings of a Dove by Bob Marley and the Wailers, performed here by the Rastafari family in the garden. Mi Vieja by La Familia Andre, playing at the diner. And Wake Up and Live by Bob Marley and the Wailers. That's when Crockett and Tubbs were driving along. Okay, we're going to check out goofs, fun facts on locations. Our first goof here is when the cryogenic capsule slips off the dock, it quickly sinks. But at the end, it's later seen floating out to sea.
That would have made it too easy that it would have popped up. If it sank, Esther would have been able to they would have been able to recover it, and then they would have been back at square one, but she wouldn't have got it because she's going to jail anyway. But just the thought there. Our first location is La Libertad Cafe, 701 West Flagler Street in Miami.
This is one of 2 episodes, Missing Hours being the other one, where Miami Vice borders on science fiction. In 1987, no such cryogenic technology existed, though it had been theoretically proposed since the early 60s. Currently it does, but only in experimental form.
And then, Mark, we have a quote here, which was probably one of the best. I know I got a chuckle out of it. How can he have civil rights? He's a popsicle. And that's Switek on hearing that a judge had ruled Nevin's civil rights have been violated.
Okay, let's check out the trivia for this episode. Last episode, we asked, in the first OCB scene, what framed picture is on Switek's desk? If you don't get this, go back and start all over again. The picture is Elvis.
This episode's trivia question is, what is the name of Izzy's sidekick dog? And we'll give you a little bit of a hint. This dog was reanimated by Poe and Frobel after being frozen. You can post your answers on this episode's Facebook post, or you can email us at miamivice@duck.com.
And we've arrived at Mindful Music. We'd like to share a quick clip of a song that we'd like to send some peaceful or inspiring vibes your way. With the show, as our own lives, we might have many issues or stressful times that we encounter. With these song choices that we pick out, we can hopefully quiet the mind and make those issues less of an obstacle for your day. This song choice is Why Kiki by Iam Tongi. Iam was an American Idol contestant last year and obviously was a smash hit. This song here is about pretty much a girl simply playing hard to get and how this guy pines for her. But I'm going to do a little bit of a twist to make things a little bit lighter and a more fun aspect for mindful music. Since we all have to just relax and chill and wine sometimes, I'd like to think you could probably title this song Why Tiki, as in tiki drinks, right? If you look at the lyrics, you can replace Kiki with tiki and have some of the same results, such as down on my knees, do me like that, sugar cane kiss, down to the last sip, and so on and so on. So, as we always say, sit back, relax, and imagine you're on a Hawaiian island with a tiki drink and take a listen.
Blue water dancing, ocean spray in the air. Trade winds waving your jet black hair. Island girl, kinda east side crazy. You never call me yours, but you call me baby. Why, Kiki? Why you wanna do me like that, Kiki? Why you gotta hurt me so bad, Kiki? Why you got me down on my knees? Why, Kiki?
Thanks to all of you for tuning into the Vice of Miami podcast. We hope you enjoyed our look into the world of Miami Vice. If you loved what you heard, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us out. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more Miami Vice goodness. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at the Vice of Miami podcast. Our next episode will cover Season 4, Episode 5, Child's Play. Until next time, stay stylish and keep the Vice alive. Now...
Got a regular smorgasbord here of dope. Hey, pal?